Have you ever been in the medical tent of a race, or maybe even tried to avoid going to the medical tent because you were worried that you were going to get pulled from the race? Hey, this is Coach Lisa from the Running University, and I'm here to put the fun in your run. And today I have a special video to share with you. Actually, I had Don Crawford, an EMT, who is part of the TRU Tribe, do a very special series. It's actually one video as a guest speaker, and she shared with us the top reasons why people end up in the medic tent. So, do you know how long you should start hydrating before a race? Do you know when you should start taking care of your feet before a race? She answers a lot of questions. It's a great session, and I just thought, usually these only get posted in my group, but I really wanted to share it with you because I've been in the medical tent once. It was dehydration, and I've never been back again. I've learned how to handle it. But here, I hope that you can get some really good tips. And if you wait till the end, if you've ever been an ultra runner or know about the ultra lean, we're talking about that at the very end of the segment too. So I hope you enjoy it. And hey, feel free to leave me some notes down in the comment if you did enjoy it, or if you have a question, I can easily get her to answer some of your questions if you have anything specific. And if not, just subscribe to my channel, and talk to you soon.
All right. Hey, everybody. Today we have our monthly guest speaker, and I'm super excited about this. I really don't know why we didn't do this one before, but it is with one of our very own TRU Tribe members, Dawn Crawford. And some of you may recognize her. Again, hopefully not too many times, but she is often found in the medic tents. Because that's what she does at the Aura Viper races. So I just want to read what I have to make the proper introduction. Is Dawn has spent her lifetime helping others, which I could totally see that, from being an assistant coach in high school for gymnastics to EMT for MedStar today, which is where we see her at Aura Viper. She comes to us with over 20 years experience, also a massage therapist, which I did not know, 20 years experience. Her second time in the EMT world is she spent several years with a volunteer rescue squad in Virginia a long time ago. And since she's horrible at sitting still, she teaches CPR, first aid. Is that basic life support?
Yes.
For Heartsavers. Yeah, I used to do.
I also do BLS. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. I will just let you take it. Well, there's more. Has been active, spent her childhood doing gymnastics, playing softball, soccer, horseback riding. In college, she spent her time supporting athletes as a student spirit leader. Oh my God, I love this. Once she met Steven, which some of you may know, Steven, her world crashed into triathlons and eventually leading her to the world of endurance running, supporting him. And again, you see her at all the aid stations too. He runs 100 miles and Cocodona. This is how she got recertified. Did I just lose somebody? Is Dawn still here?
I'm still here.
Okay, good. That's what matters. Anyway, trail running is where her heart is. So she has made us a family. Anyway, without any further ado, she is going to share with us the top reasons why people end up in the medic tent and how to avoid them. Take it away, Dawn.
Hi. First, I'd like to say, we can't give, and this is not only MedStar rules, but Aura Viper rules. We can't give you anything that masks pain during the race. So no ibuprofen, no Tylenol. We can do ice because it's going to fade real fast. But we can't do even any Bengay or icy hot or anything like that while you're still racing. Now, that doesn't mean you can't take them. You just can't get them from us. So when you're preparing your little bags, your vests, that might be something to put in. Okay. Also, coming to see the medic. Now, a long time ago, if you went to see the medic, you were out of the race, period. Didn't matter if the race had just started. If you went to see the medic, you were out. That's not the way it is anymore. You can come see us, and unless we deem it medically necessary, we're not going to pull you. We, especially me, know how much it costs you in money, time, sweat, sometimes blood, to get into these races and to do these races. So it's not our goal to have you, to pull you. If anything, we want to glue it back on or sew it back on and put you back out there and let you finish running. So, you know, but come see us before a little problem gets big. Come see us. Because sometimes leukotape is an amazing thing. And that blister may not actually happen if we have to get that hot spot and put leukotape on it. And that brings us to probably one of the major reasons that we see people, blisters. Foot care should not be a hit or miss thing. And it shouldn't be a, it's the day before a race thing. You should be doing foot care all the time. When you get new socks, you should be inspecting those socks for strings, for bumps in them, things like that. Socks wear out. Did you guys know that? I honestly really didn't know socks could wear out, but they do. And now, having spent 5 years taking care of Steven's socks, I know that they wear out. So look at the life of your sock. If you're doing a race of any sort, get fresh socks. Get them a week or two beforehand. Go ahead and run in them, inspect them, make sure they don't have any loose strings or anything. But get fresh socks. You would be amazed at what fresh socks can do for you. And start that foot care. Look for those nails that are not exactly where they're supposed to be. Look for those rough spots, those hot spots, and come see us. Or, buy a roll of leukotape and put it on you. Now, leukotape is different than rock tape, KT tape, or anything like that. Leukotape is actually made for blisters. Okay, and to help people from getting blisters. So it's thinner, it's more flexible, it's stickier, and it actually breathes, and it's going to stay on when you get it wet. Okay, so that's generally what we use. Understand that we cannot actually pop those blisters for you. Okay, so we're not really allowed to make any holes in you. But we certainly can clean it and dress it afterwards. So please come see us. This is especially important when you're doing things like across the years, when you're doing cocodona, anything long like that. Especially if that hot spot starts up in the first 50 miles and you have another 200 to go. We want to see you cross that finish line. And one day I'm not going to work so much during cocodona that I can be at that finish line cheering all of you on. But taking care of your feet, think about it. You don't run on your hands. You run on your feet. You got to take care of them. Okay. The next reason that we would probably see people the most is abrasions. Falling down. I know the trail leaps up and pulls you down sometimes. And gloves for the hands would actually be fantastic. They'd keep you from getting those abrasions right here on the heel, on the bottom of your palms. Please don't lead with your face. We did a race, I think it was Mesquite, over at White Tanks, and at least half the people that came into the medical tent led with their faces for that race because they didn't want to get their hands and knees hurt. And so we had to send approximately 4 people for stitches. So let's not do that. There's really not a lot you can do to prevent it, but gloves would help. And just coming in and seeing, let us clean them. Let us prove we're useful. So, those generally happen on the hands, the knees, the elbows, places like that. And then the next reason, and it's kind of two things in one. We generally see a lot of our people for dehydration. Okay, not that any of y'all have ever come to me for dehydration, right? But you can do so much to help yourself. Even though we live in Arizona and supposedly we're used to the dry heat, prehydrate. Prehydrate. That is going to be so important for you. And then continue to drink after. Don't gulp, sip. And then we always recommend, if you are starting to feel a little nausea from that dehydration, or even a little nausea in general, ginger or peppermint. Now, Patty is really awesome. She has pickle juice, which will help with both those things. You have to ask for it because it attracts bees. But she does have it, so you need to ask for it. Ginger, she carries ginger in 3 different ways. She carries it in ginger ale, she carries it in candied ginger, and she carries ginger snaps. One of those is going to help you out a whole lot. And then just sitting and taking the time to rehydrate. Now, when you're sitting and rehydrating, we don't want you to drink just water. We want you to alternate that water with a soda, a ginger ale, a gnarly, something like that, because that sugar and that potassium and sodium are actually going to help your body retain that water a little bit more, help get you rehydrated. Okay, and it generally takes about 45 minutes and 20 ounces of water to get you so that you're feeling back to like you could move again or hydrated. Okay, those are the top reasons that we see people, and they're actually relatively preventable. It just depends on what you do before the race and during the race. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that was actually really eye-opening in the sense when you, I mean, okay, the abrasions and the falling, I would say technique could be a way people could avoid potentially, right?
Yes.
But pretty much everything you brought up was, something that could be handled on our own ahead of time. So I never thought about that. Like the foot care one actually was probably the biggest shocker for me, because I think I never get blisters, and I got blisters at Black Canyon, and I thought it was the shoes, but I think it was the socks that were worn out, because I think they were more, or they were thinner, and I had more friction or something.
When the socks, after you wash them, are still kind of stiff, that's the time to start looking at your socks and going, okay, let's get rid of these. Because that means that all the extra little fluff on the threads is gone, and now you're just dealing with the thread. There's nothing surrounding that thread. And so they're not going to be as gentle. They're not going to be as soft on your foot. And they're also not going to mold as nicely to your foot. So you're going to have creases, and you're going to have corners in them, believe it or not, in a sock. And that's a lot of times where your blisters will come from. Now, Stephen did that very first Cocodona. And yes, I have to relate a lot of stuff to Stephen because that's where my experience is. He did that very first Cocodona, and he established a foot care routine probably a good month before the race. And he actually finished Cocodona with 1 blister on his little toe. And that was because he had gotten new, I don't know how to say this, inginis? Is that
Ingingies? I don't know if I say that. Ingingies.
Yeah.
Ingingi.
Yeah.
And he had not checked for all of the strings. And there was one little string in that little baby toe that actually rubbed up on him and gave him a little baby blister. But that was a 250-mile race, and that one blister he didn't even have any hot spots. And I didn't have to slather him in Leukotape. In fact, I stayed far away from his feet He didn't come and say, hey, take care of me or anything like that. So checking those socks, checking those shoes, taking the inner soles of your shoes out, making sure that there's no rocks hiding under there, no thistles or anything. Taking care of your feet beforehand is going to do you so much to getting you to that finish line. So I crewed for Badwater 2 years ago, and we had him start a foot care routine about a month before Badwater, and he made it through the entire race with no blisters. That's in Death Valley in July, and I think it was like 120 degrees, and he made it through with no blisters.
What do you mean when you talk about like foot care, like outside of checking the socks and that kind of stuff, like anything else you recommend? Because these are things that we could prevent.
Checking your nails, checking those nails, looking for any calluses or anything like that, soaking the feet occasionally just to, and there are all sorts of baths, foot soaks out there, and a nice peppermint foot soak actually feels really good. Have a glass of wine with it, and it's a little decadent, that type of thing. So not to promote any particular brand, but Steven lives and dies by Happy Toes. I happen to like just lotion on my feet when I'm getting ready to go to bed, wearing socks to bed with the lotion on, things like that. It's essentially just looking at your feet and actually seeing your feet and fixing whatever you may feel is a problem.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, it sounds like the most basic thing, but I can't actually say, that I've really paid that much. I mean, I get a pedicure. That's who takes care of my feet, because I can't do.
And that's probably a really good thing to do. Be careful when you get those. So if you've got an established place that you go to, that's awesome. But remember, they're looking at your feet just to see if there are any problems and how pretty they can make your toes, which is awesome and necessary. But you want to be looking at it as, this is my tool. This is my equipment for getting me from the start line to the finish line. Is there anything that I need to look at? If you have a bunion, maybe you want to go ahead and put Leukotape on that bunion to make sure it's not rubbing. Check your shoes. Don't let those seams rub on your feet. It's okay for a 10-mile run down at the canal. Probably not okay for a 10-mile run at Usery or White Tanks or Cave Creek or anything. So you look at your shoes. If you have a seam that is not comfortable, maybe you need to go find some new shoes. Things like that. Or come see us before a race. Wear your slides in, put your feet up, we'll tape them, and then you can go. You will have to sign our little form, like Jan says. But if that's what you need to figure out what to do, go for it.
Great. That's awesome. What questions? Anybody else have any questions?
I have one. So regarding pre-hydration, how long before a race should we start thinking about that?
Well, in the summertime, if you're going to go out and do Usery, probably now is not a bad time to start. No, usually about a week before, because you're not just going to sit in your house and hydrate. Remember, you're out going doing things. And what they generally say is half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're 100 pounds, it's 50 ounces of water.
A day.
We live in Arizona, so that means we're 10% already dehydrated. So you're going to add another 5 ounces for living in Arizona. You're human and you're breathing, so you're going to add another 5 ounces or another 10% for just being human. And then you're exercising, so you want to add another 10% to that. So you want to be, when you're exercising, you want to be drinking about 65, 70 ounces per day, and when they say exercising, they're like talking about, going to the gym and lifting weights or getting on the bike there. Mm-hmm. You actually want to have more available to you. Okay. And prehydrate. Now, I'm not saying drink so much that you're running to the bathroom every 5 minutes, because that's not helpful either. But we do want to be drinking quite a bit more. And I would definitely start 2 or 3 days more. If you're flying, then you want to definitely be prehydrating before you get on the plane, during the plane, after the plane. Did that help?
Yeah, thanks.
What about electrolytes? Would you do electrolytes? I mean, so here's the crazy thing. I usually do electrolytes for long runs and races, but I don't do them at the other days of the week. Or so should I start prehydrating with electrolytes too?
But what do you drink when you get home? And how long are your runs when you're doing those other days? If we're talking of maybe a 5 or a 6 mile run and you're feeling good at the end of it, you want to have something when you get home. Okay. If you're out doing a 10 mile run, then maybe you want to have some sort of electrolyte before you go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think because at Big Pine, I had a little, So I've, even before Silverton, which obviously was in higher elevation, I was prehydrating all week. And, it's hard when you're traveling too, because you're trying to drink, but you're driving 8 hours, so you don't want to stop and pee every 2. But I was also trying to drink more electrolytes. And it's hard for me to compare it, right? Because Silverton, I can't really compare to a race here. I mean, I felt great mostly during the whole thing, except for,
Yeah, I would definitely do some electrolytes. I wouldn't do just electrolytes. The other thing that I would want to say is, if you walk up to that aid station and your stomach isn't tolerating anything that you brought with you, it's time to throw the plan out and just kind of stand there for a few minutes and go, okay, what looks good? If nothing looks good, at least get a cup of ginger ale or an electrolyte thing and sit somewhere and drink it slowly. Don't slam it. We never want you to go. That's actually going to put you into more nausea and not help you out any. And then take that 20 or 30 minutes and rehydrate. Sip it slowly. Talk to people. Cool down. If you got to put a cool cloth on your neck or whatever, do that. And then see how you're feeling. When you get to Jackass Junction on your 3rd loop, take a few minutes. Sit down in our shade. Hopefully it won't be 150 degrees out there this year. And take those few moments to drink something. You also don't want to drink anything ice cold, because that can actually cause your stomach to cramps. We want cool, okay, because you want to feel like you're actually doing some good, but that ice cold could actually be detrimental. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. What else? Any other questions, you guys? Just want to be respectful of everybody's time. We go longer if it's, but we try not to.
I did want to talk. I was working on across the years today at work, and I did want to talk about the ultra lean.
Oh, please do.
Done that.
It's a combination of things. A lot of times we find it's an electrolyte imbalance, but it's also core training. If you run, yay. If all you do is run, that's a yay too, but not quite as much of a yay, because running is good for your core, but it's not going to get all those little muscles. And what happens is they give out, and then you start to go one way or the other. And, no matter what I feed you, no matter what I do for you, if those little muscles are totally exhausted, I'm not going to do anything to get you to stand up straight. So again, that's a pre-event thing that we can start to take care of. So add a little core into the routine type thing, and watch those electrolytes. Did that help?
Yeah, I think, because I know we've researched it before, because like Barbara, for example, right, like for her 100K, and she's a personal trainer and she does strength, like she does core work. Like we had this conversation because that comes up when you Google it a lot. So again, hearing that there's other possibilities that, electrolytes, and, again, I don't do the best with electrolytes, so I'm trying to get better at it. I just bought a bunch of LMNT, whatever it's called. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up, because that is something that, but core work is usually in everybody's, everybody should be doing core work if they're, especially in the plus, doing any of my training. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So why did you say ultra lean? Is that something?
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Is it a product or a?
No. You see people doing ultras, especially, I feel like you see it more in loops too. You know what I mean? Like people, but it's like when you see people that are completely like leaned over, like it's the ultra lean, and they're like literally walking like this, and you just want to straighten them up, but it can't happen. Like Barbara was the first one in the group that I've seen it a lot. Isla would have it. I remember seeing Isla across the years. Oh, Isla. Sorry, I've been thinking about her a lot lately. I don't know why she's popping in my head, but yeah, it's something that happens that, again, different reasons, but next time you see, but it usually is somebody's been going for a long time. So
and it could be, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. We've got a lot of people that come to across the years, a lot of the older people that they like to do the loops at across the years, because it's not running on a road, and it's getting them out, and they can do as much as they want and not. Well, some of those people, and I want to say his name is Jeff, he starts out that way. So if we walk up to you and we're like, okay, do you normally walk that way? Then he's, what we're starting to see is that lean where you're going over, and it's like, okay, do we need to take a few moments to fix this, or is this, is this the way you normally go? So I'm not just being nosy, I'm actually asking for reasons.
Seen it more in women than in men, and the longer stuff. I've seen it at Western States. I've seen Cocodona's had 3 or 4. Any of the longer, not mountainous ones tend to be more leaners than, like, you don't see it at Hard Rock.
No. No.
Yeah, so I've seen Jeff run, and I know exactly what you mean. I think most of us, and I know from being a trainer, and most of us know this anyway, most of us have some imbalances. We're stronger on one side than the other. We're right dominant or left dominant. And in a normal race, a 5K, 10K, a half marathon, that doesn't show up. But I think as you go longer and longer distances and you're more fatigued, that just sort of exacerbates it, and it just starts to show up. And I think it's something that's there all the time, but the longer you run, the more that imbalance just sort of shows itself. Yeah.
I'd have to agree with that.
I've been trying to unmute myself for like a minute, but I did it.
Yay!
You did it. From the physical therapy world, we see a lot of it. We have so much pelvic asymmetry, and I think just with the longer distances, it just becomes more evident. And then all of a sudden, we're leaning to the side, especially anybody with a history of like sacroiliac issues. Definitely good to make sure you're nice and mobile through your SI joint.
Yep.
So, should have now that you're just piping in there. I forget about you. Should do a talk, Susan. We'll chat later. You should do a talk. No, well, you could be a guest speaker for us. You should be a guest speaker. We can hear from you. I always love to hear. I'd always rather.
Yeah,
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's funny that
Yeah,
you
that's
say
what I
that
wanted to
because,
ask.
Lisa, as you know, I've been complaining about, I have this on and off issue with my SI joint on my left side. And when it's only happened to me twice, one was in the 50K, one was in 100K, I was leaning towards that side. So
yeah, that's actually very fast. Are you just putting this like all together now? Like that's actually really good.
I never tied it into the SI because most of the time that doesn't bother me, but it's there. So it just, you go for 100K, it's going to show up.
Sure. Yeah. No, the fatigue I think is definitely a good. That's all. Wow.
Yeah.
Cool stuff. Cool. Yeah. Anybody else? Again, I don't want to cut it short. If you have questions, this is your time. Obviously, you know where you can find Dawn if you go to just about Sierra Viper Base. Again, we were kidding around earlier where we always like to go visit her as our tribe member and friend and not professionally in the medic tent. But, there's no fear, obviously, to go. I love that you said that, too, that, I think maybe people do have a fear of like, oh, I'm going to get pulled or they're going to tell me I can't go back out. So I think stating that ahead was cool. Any other?
Were you at McDowell Frenzy last year?
Probably. I'm at so many of the Air Viper races.
The day it rained, like all afternoon?
Oh, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because I ended up in the medical tent after the race, but I don't remember if I saw you or not.
Sometimes she has purple hair. Dawn does. Actually, now it's pink, right? You got some pink in there right now?
Yeah, a little bit of pink.
So.
Yeah,
I was just curious if it was you that helped me. Like, I was shivering out because of the rain. I was cold.
Oh, probably.
Pulled off my clothes and put me under a heat lamp. And
I think so. Yeah. I remember doing that to someone. I cannot, like I said.
Yeah, I think it might have been you.
Or something. I'm taking care of that. And unfortunately, I don't always get a good look at the faces, but I remember the names and the injuries.
You have to sign the form. You have to sign the form.
Okay. Well, thanks for your help. If it was you.
And the rest of the crew, I want to say, is it Cheryl? Am I saying, is Cheryl the other one? Who's Jamie? Jamie with the dog.
Yes.
Yes.
Jamie with Cayenta.
I'm bad at names too, unless it's somebody. Yeah, you guys are awesome. We really appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
Anything else, you guys? Any other questions so that we can? I just want to, and obviously,
just a thank you for patching me up at Big Pine, cleaning the rocks out of my arm. Appreciate
it. Definitely good to have her in our corner again. We don't want to visit her too often, but cool. All right. Well, again, y'all are in the tribe. So if you have any questions, you can clearly reach out to her if you have anything else. But this was so helpful. Thank you so much, Dawn. I really appreciate it.
You are so welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. So I look forward to each of you coming by and saying hello out at Oosery, but not professionally.
Okay.
Got it.